the goal is to coach on the highest possible level in your you believe, but at the same time be realistic. And there are more days that you really feel like, oh, I'm not in the mood today, or that's the thing where you need to follow through. Coaching is an experience job. The more you coach, the more you learn. Social media is poison. Focus on the process and evaluate the process. In social media paints a picture that is not the reality of life.
What's up, people, and welcome back to another video. This is part 2 of a Tiki-Taka episode I did with Eelco Schattorie. And now, if you haven't seen the first part of this interview, make sure you hit the I button and go give that a watch. In this part of the interview, Eelco gives us an insight into what he does to improve as a coach, where he would like to manage next, and at the end, he gives his advice to all coaches and players watching this video. So make sure you watch the whole video. If you're new around here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Comment down below what you think I should be asking next time. If you like what you see, make sure you hit the like button and share it to anyone who you think would benefit from watching this. Now, this is just to change it up a little bit, talk about the other side of football. So my first question to you is, do you think it's important for footballers and coaches to build up their online presence?
For a coach like me, I think, and I don't mean it arrogant, I think I have a lot of experience and I'm a good coach. I even think that I can coach in the Premier League or in high division. But if you don't have a big CV or you don't have a good background, a big background, then you need to profile yourself. And some coaches are lucky. Who, for instance, I worked with Avram Grant, who was coach of Chelsea before. And if you meet a big coach, sometimes they help you maybe to give you a better job on a higher level, and then you make yourself seen, and then your career takes off. But if that doesn't happen, then you need to be as much as possible in the picture because people need to know about you. So to be honest, I prefer not to be on social media. I really don't like it. That sounds strange, but I really mean that. But at the same time, yeah, if you don't do anything, yeah, you need people need to see you. People need to know who you are, and you do anything you can to get your career as high as possible. That's how I see it.
All right, that's quite interesting. It makes a lot of sense. Okay, my next question is, what effects do social media have on young players?
Social media is poison to kids, and even for my son. If you're too much focused on social media, you see things, how other people live, how other people, everything is so beautiful. That's not the reality. And if you're all the time on it, you start thinking that you're a star, or you try to be a star, and you start checking why I don't have any likes. Even they get frustrated with it. So I'm not a fan of social media at all.
All right, that's very good. Young kids should be knowing that if they are playing football or anything, right?
To be honest, it's part of life now. But if you sit in the train, if you go to a restaurant, whatever, you see people only sitting on their telephone. I rather have a contact with somebody and talk about football than I'm on my phone. And in social media paints a picture that is not the reality of life. That I know for sure.
All right. Okay, the next question is, what is your opinion on the technology used in football, and where do you see its future?
Anything that you can use technology for is good, but at the same time, a good if you have lack of something, if you're lacking certain, if you have I will explain it like this. When I worked in Africa, why Africa has so many good talents. There will be also, for instance, in Kerala or anywhere in India where you don't have a good field. If you have a shit field, a bad field, you develop more skill. I'm 100% sure you will develop more skill because the ball is bouncing. So you have to be. So the more technology you have, the more the technology is helping you with anything. For a coach, for instance, the less he learns to see himself. So technology is good, but I still believe in developing certain skills, certain vision that nobody else has. Because if people working with too much technology, you will have less skills in things. In India, you have a lot of people who have handcrafts. I don't know, carving a table out
Yeah.
of wood or whatever. Or you have technology who a robot does it. A robot will produce more tables, but the real quality craftsmanship comes from the people themselves, and you can apply that on anything, on what you see. I technology is good, but overall it has to be a good mix, so not too much.
All right. That's very interesting. Okay, with that, we end the third section and we move into the next section that I call recovering possession, because now we are coming back to real time after having talked about your past. And the first question in that is, what has been your best moment from the last season?
For me, as I said, my philosophy of football is ball possession based football, and we there were really a few games, and I go back to what I said before. If you don't win, if you don't have the outcome, then people say, yeah, nice that you had the ball possession or whatever, but there are really a few games that we really outplayed the opponent. But in the end, you need also specific qualities to finish it. And when we played against Goa, we had really, after the game, all the players of Goa and the coach even they were said it's unbelievable. We only played with 3 foreigners, I think, at one stage or four, and with all the problems that we had, they really said you really outplayed us, and we scored that goal with 24 passes. And I don't think one team in the whole season managed to do that, even not Goa. But people don't care about it. They just see, oh, but you lost. But the reason why you lost, nobody sees. Nobody understands that. It's only black and white thinking. It's the same thing with football. A football coach highly depends on the quality of his players. And a good coach, he adds something extra. He gives a few percent extra to the team. And as I said, my biggest moment this season, in my opinion, was I will take two. That is the Goa, the goal, 24 passes, and I'm the only coach who beat the champion twice. So that's also something.
Yeah. All right. So the second question is, currently, what do you still do to improve as a coach, even though you're a professional coach?
I actually here I will. That's a coincidence you ask. I have here a book, for instance, in front of me. It's called Total Coaching. It's um, it's a course on uh, preferences. That means it has nothing to do specifically with football. It has to do with how do you coach people, and everyone has preferences. If you ever heard of Myers and Briggs, it's like that you have like different characters and how to deal with it. It's based on that model, but more specifically to sports. So I always keep busy. I always try to learn. Because it has nothing to do with football, just in general, but on the coaching part, I always try to develop myself and try to learn something new. Because in the end, if you stop learning, that's just the day you die, I always say.
All right. That's a very good philosophy to have. All right. My next question: what do you think is lacking with Indian football as compared to all the foreign leagues that you have experienced?
For sure, as I said, also with Kerala Blasters or Northeast. For instance, Northeast last year, they have such a backyard of talent, but there is no real development of talent. There's no real structure for them, and yeah, that's in the end. If a nation, India has one of the best probably developed IT people in the world. And why is that? Because there is also perfect schooling for it. You have fantastic schools in development of IT. So why would that be different for football or anything? If you don't start on the bottom, if you don't start there and develop, put good infrastructure in place, yeah, you will never reach anything on the top. That's logic.
All right. My last question in this section is, what is the importance of basic education in the development of footballers?
Important for after you finish your football career that you have still something to fall back on, unless you made so much money and you don't need it anymore. but to have an education and when you finish your career, that you are able to still stay in the society and have a job. But it's not necessary to have an education to be a good football player. The best football players, most of the time, they come from the street. They didn't have too much education, if you ask me. So there is no relationship there. There are examples
All
of
right.
very highly educated good football players, and also very highly educated bad football players, and also the other way around. So
Yeah.
yes, I always will stimulate it, but it has nothing to do with the football intelligence itself.
All right. Okay, with that, we end the recovering possession section of this interview. We move on to the next section that I call through pass. And this section is talking about a little bit in the future. So the first question is, what is one goal you want to achieve in the coming years?
Coach in Europe,
All right.
very simple.
And prefer any club, any division.
Any division of what I prefer in England, in Holland, in Germany. Even if it's second division, I mean, you need to start, but to coach, the goal is to coach on the highest possible level in Europe. Yes.
All right. All right. Hopefully, we'll see you there soon. Okay. The next question is, where do you see the future of Indian football?
I still believe if you only build on the top, I think the ISL made some good progression, but you also need to make progression down on the youth level, and there I still don't see a lot of progress. Although maybe it's happening because it's outside my vision because I'm not there. But overall, I think to see where it ends, I don't know. I think the intention is there, but there's still a long way to go.
Okay. The next question is, ideally, at what age would you like to retire from coaching, and what would you do after that?
For me, coaching is really something I really love. So I would not retire, I would not stop. And if somehow, because when you get older, you also sometimes have before before coaching was always coaches were always old, and the older you were, they thought they were good coaches. Now they want younger coaches, and the older you get, you get less jobs. So if I would retire and I would have financially the opportunity, I would do traveling and learn. I love to travel and learn things. Like for instance, I remember back in the days, and that was actually in the beginning of my coaching career. I once went like 3 4 days to a how do you say that? A prison, a youth prison. So where younger kids, teenagers, they went where they were in prison, and it was a very special program on how they educate them. So I went there. That had also a relationship to coaching, to uh, to see how you deal with difficult people because they had different mindsets. So if I would stop coaching, for instance, I would love to visit certain countries like Indonesia or maybe Thailand, where they had to do certain Buddhism or so anything that has to do with learning for the body and your mind. I'm always very interested. There's still so many things to do. So
All right. All right. Okay, so that ends the through pass
I'm not
section.
planning to retire soon. So
Hopefully not, because I have to see you at the top level, and then I'll say I interviewed Eelco Schattorie. All right. Okay, so I'm moving into the last section of this interview. It's called Extra Time. And the first question in that is, as a coach who has developed many young players, what are the few qualities you think that a young player needs to have to become great?
first of all, you need to check what position a player plays. So it's a difference if you play defender, goalkeeper, defender, midfield, or striker, because you need different qualities. That is one. You need to see in the talent where does he have the most chance to succeed to become a football player. There are players I remember in my career who played in the front line but eventually became a defender. They had more chance of succeeding to become a professional football player there in that position. That is one. But the player himself, I go back to in the beginning of the interview, is the mental strength. in the end, it's the easiest way to explain it. If you have to do something, if your end goal is to become a professor, if your end goal is to become a football player, if your end goal is to become a movie star, whatever you want to be, that road from the beginning where you start till reaching that goal is long. And there are more days in that process that you really feel like, oh, I'm not in the mood today, or that's the thing where you need to follow through. And as I said it, you need to learn how to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And when that mental strength is there, you have a very good chance of succeeding. 100%. That eventually will get you there.
All right. Okay, the next question is, what advice would you give to coaches, to younger coaches watching this video? What advice would you give to them?
Coaching is an experience job. That means the more you coach, the more you learn. But at the same time, don't focus on the result, focus on the process. So if you coach something, even for a player actually, but I will stick to the coach. If you every time only stick to the result, so either you win or lose, there are many teams or many coaches who coached a fantastic game. It was a really good game, but still lost. Referee made a wrong decision. The opponent scored a goal out of nothing, just luck. But everything you did was fantastic or good. But you just were not lucky enough to score the goal, or you don't have a striker who has enough quality to score the goal. So I always say, focus on the process and evaluate the process. That is very good for a coach. I watched a lot of games in my life in analyzing, and the second thing, you have to do it in practical. So going to a coaching course and just get some information, that will not make you a good coach. You have to do it. You have to start coaching. Best thing for young coaches, start working with youth and work your way into that.
All right. Okay, that leads me on well to my next question, because I was going to ask you, who do you think is the best young coach in the world right now in Europe?
That's difficult to say because you don't get to see how coaches work. If you go to results, you could say because before everyone loved Mourinho and said, yeah, Mourinho always get results, but Mourinho suddenly not getting results, but he's still the same coach. So that is no, I don't have an answer on that. There, I know for sure what I can see is Guardiola. He's not old, by the way, but Guardiola for sure you can always see he has an influence. Jurgen Klopp, he has an influence. But to really know what the best youngest coach is difficult to say.
Uh, okay, the last question is, what advice in general? So you've given a lot of tips in this entire interview, but in general, what advice would you give to young players if they are watching this video?
Believe, but at the same time be realistic, because in the end you can dream about something, uh, and you don't have certain qualities to do so. But in the end, I would always say, if you believe, if you really believe, go for what you want to reach, and it doesn't matter whatever career you're chasing, either it's a footballer or a doctor or whatever. But be a little bit stubborn, because just following only what other people say or only following the information in the books or whatever will not get you anywhere. The best people in the world in anything, there's a bit stubbornness to them. They do it different than other people do. So I would say, follow your dream, be persistent, and be a bit stubborn in what you do.
All right. Okay, Eelco, that brings us to full time and concludes the interview. Thank you so much for spending time talking to me. I have learned a lot. I hope everyone else who watches this video will also learn a lot.
As I said, for me, it's always good to contribute to football on any level, and everything I do comes from my heart. And if I can help anybody, because that's my religion, I believe in helping people. That's the thing I believe in. If everyone would do the same thing, we would have a much better society, and I'm sure we would grow even as people together. So hopefully you got some useful information, and I wish all your viewers and listeners the best. Thanks.
That's the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe for more content like this. And if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit that like button and share it to anyone who you think would benefit from watching this.